Hey guys, I told you I'd be back. So I'm here to talk about histamine intolerance. Let's just dive right into it. This is kind of how my story started. It originally started before I ever got my surgery. I would say about a good year, maybe a little bit less before I got my surgery. I was having issues with basically allergies. I've never had allergies before. I've grown up in California my whole life. And I know with some Californians, they'll eventually come out, or some people just always have them. I never had them. I already knew at this point that dairy can cause allergies. It actually can. It can make you allergic to things that are flying around like pollen and different things. But I wasn't consuming dairy at that time. And because I was so consistently sick, I was real faithful about not consuming dairy. But I was having issues when I'd be at work. My eyes would start swelling. They started swelling my eyelids to the point where they were super puffy. They were super itchy. And it just got worse and worse. And then I would wake up in the morning and I couldn't even open my eyes. They were like swollen shut. It was really bad. And then my skin, especially my face, my skin was super dry. My eyelids were scaly and itchy. I couldn't figure it out. And then one of the ladies that I worked with, she was an older woman, and she's like, oh my God, she goes, I get issues like that all the time. She goes, red wine is what does it to me. Red wine would make her itchy all over, and she would sneeze, and it went ping, because at that time in my life, I was kind of in remission, but I was also going through a lot of stress. Remission that is from ulcerative colitis. I wasn't in a major flare or anything. So I would go home from work and I would have like a small glass of red wine. I was not a big drinker. Once in a blue moon, I would drink a gluten-free beer, or I would have a little bit of red wine. I liked my red wine. And I was faithfully coming home at that point, having a little bit of red wine. And I was like, oh my God, that has to be what it is. So I just stopped doing it. This all cleared up. I felt completely back to normal. And then I decided, let me try it. Maybe it isn't the red wine, but I just want to really be able to rule it out. So I just tried a little bit, and sure enough, I started feeling my eyes swell, my eyelids swell later that night. I woke up in the middle of the night and they were almost swollen shut and they got super itchy. It was just horrible. So, okay, no red wine, not the end of the world. Not that I'm a big drinker anyways. That's kind of when my situation started. Like I said, I was going through a lot of stress. So then if I knew I ever was going to go out with my sister or a girlfriend or something, and we were going to have a drink, I would get white wine or Prosecco or champagne. And I discovered that for some reason, Prosecco and champagne didn't really give me that reaction. If I had like a glass tonight and then a glass tomorrow night, then I would start getting a little bit itchy and then my eyelids would get scaly. So obviously it had to do with alcohol some way or the other. I just, kind of stayed in my lane with that and knew that, okay, if I'm gonna have a glass tonight, girl, you ain't touching any alcohol for a week, which was fine. Like I said, again, I wasn't a big drinker. And I believe during my research, I read about the histamine, because think about it, that's what happens when you have allergies. Your body releases this histamine. Fast forward till after my surgery, I never had any other issues except if I, had 2 glasses of champagne, one night, one the next night, then I would start getting itchy and dry. Fast forward, I had my surgery, was dealing with the same things, but then it seemed like all of a sudden, this is probably about 2017, all of a sudden, it just got worse. And it's like, wait a minute, I only had a glass of Prosecco. I didn't have 2 glasses that night. I didn't have a glass the next night. What is going on? And it would just flare up, and it was worse than it would ever be if I would ever get a little itchy and scaly just from having, I had 2 glasses of Prosecco or champagne, or white wine. No, it was worse. It was like I had 10 glasses or something. And here I am, a makeup artist that have to go to work and put on a full face of makeup, and I just couldn't, because they were so puffy and so scaly. And at that point it was creeping down here. My skin was just super dry and crepey, and I was just so uncomfortable. And it was a nonstop itch. It just got so bad. And then of course it got to the point where go further, fast forward a little bit. I just was like, well, that's fine. I'm not going to even, if I'm going out with my friends, well then too bad, too sad. I'm not going to have a glass of Prosecco or white wine. I don't need to. Again, I'm not a big drinker. So, but I was still having reactions. and it was getting worse. It was going around my mouth. It was almost like I was having an eczema outbreak, but it was different. And my corners of my lips were splitting open. I mean, it was brutal. I'd get it in between my fingers and I was just miserable. I just felt so itchy and miserable and uncomfortable, and I looked horrid, and it was just a nightmare, and I couldn't figure it out until I finally started doing research. I started reading and reading and reading and reading, and I came in on this histamine intolerance situation. So certain foods will trigger it or are high in histamines. Vinegar is extremely high in histamine. I put vinegar, apple cider vinegar, on everything. I used to take shots of it even before my surgery because supposedly it was supposed to help with inflammation. I love vinaigrette dressings, and I'm the salad girl that really just likes everything else except the salad. So I would drench it in whatever vinaigrette dressing that I would eat. Then I found out avocados are high in histamine, and it just, once I cut out vinegar and I was still having problems in researching all the foods that are triggers or high in histamine, it was like, oh my God, I can't eat anything. It was a nightmare, and I was miserable, but I was also extremely stressed at this time as well. All of a sudden, things kind of balanced out. I felt back to normal. I was able to have a glass of Prosecco and not even at this point have a reaction. I would have 2 glasses in a night and not even have a reaction. My skin might feel a little bit dry, but no itching, no creping, no swollen eyes. All of a sudden it just balanced out and I was totally fine. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can have vinegar again. Everything just kind of balanced back out like it never happened. It was weird. Fast forward again, I am sitting down with a client of mine, and I'm always open about my life and my ailments, and speaking with this client, come to find out they have an autoimmune disease as well. They've dealt with histamine intolerance, and this client just started, oh yeah, that's goes hand in hand with autoimmune diseases. And she just starts telling me everything. And I felt relieved, like I understood a little bit more of what was going on with me. Now, talking with this client and the things that this client said and the research that I did, there is actually some diagnoses for these. Now, I never went to my doctor or my surgeon about this. I don't know why. I just thought, God, my body's just sensitive. I always had skin issues. I don't know. So I never ever talked to a doctor or my surgeon about this. But after speaking with this client and doing research, there are things that you can be diagnosed with. Now, I'm going to just list them right here. Right here. Now, if you're having any of these situations, I'm not telling you to be a dope like me and don't go to your doctors. Go to your doctors, man. They might know how to handle this. For me, this is kind of what I put 2 and 2 together, okay? This is the pattern. Every time I had a situation like that, a flare-up, I was extremely stressed out, okay? Once I wasn't, my body just went and like bounced back out. So even like I told you guys in my last video, I just got married almost 2 years ago. When I first got married, things were great. I wasn't having histamine issues. And then all of a sudden they just started popping up and it was just miserable. And then it bounced out. I was stressed during that time too. I was going through a lot of changes in my life. Now everything's fine. Like I'm fine. So yeah, so this is what I've put together, okay? Every time I've had any of those flare-ups, I was extremely stressed. Looking at my autoimmune disease, looking at any autoimmune disease, okay? When you are stressed, that's when you have a flare-up, typically. What caused my autoimmune disease to either come out of it being dormant or just create itself in my body, that's for another video, another day. Stress. And my surgeon, when I first met with him about possibly getting surgery, that's what he asked me. He was like, did something real stressful happen to you before you got sick? Yes, it did. So every time I had a flare up with my autoimmune disease and I was stressed, your body is trying to protect itself. Okay, so it elevates your immune system. Your immune system wants to attack itself because it doesn't know what to attack because it's so out of whack. It feels like it's being attacked. It needs to attack back. That's kind of what I figure with my histamine intolerance. every time I'm extremely stressed is when these things happen. My body's just releasing histamine every time I eat a food that's high in histamine or drink something high in histamine. It's in this extra mode of wanting to protect me, or protect its body or protect itself. So it's producing all this histamine that I'm having a reaction. So obviously, lesson learned, try and figure out how to manage your stress. But if you are desperate, there are certain things that you can take, and I will list them below. This I discovered before I ever talked to that client. This I discovered after my surgery, and I started having situations with just drinking white wine or champagne or Prosecco. There is a supplement called DAO, D-A-O. I think there's other ones that you can get, but it's an enzyme and it helps you break down histamine. There used to be, from a popular vitamin or supplement company, all of a sudden I can't think what they're called, they used to have one called Histablock, and it had this DAO in it. Now they don't. For some reason, not everyone can include DAO in their supplements anymore. It's not harmful to the body. Your body supposedly produces this enzyme, but we're not producing it anymore, or as much. I'm not quite sure. Don't take my word on any of that. I'm reading reviews of people who are like, this is not the same supplement, and then you read that it's changed. So I've had to really do some fishing, and I did find some supplements that helped, and they actually have the DAO in it. They're just a little bit more expensive. If you live in Europe, you're lucky because it's not as expensive there. The United States, for some screwed up reason, we have to deal with this. There are these tiny little supplement pills that you take about 10 minutes before you eat something that you know that's going to trigger, or you drink something that you know that's going to trigger you. And it's like magic, and you're totally fine. There's no side effects to it. It's natural. But this I've tried, and it's worked wonders for me. I haven't taken it in a long time just because I haven't had that situation. Even when I first got married and I started having a little minor flare up again, it didn't last that long, so I didn't take that supplement. But when I was really battling it, when I started having it again back in 2017 after my surgery, that's when I would take that supplement, and it did help. It helped a lot. And then you wake up, you look normal, you can go to work, everything's great, you feel good. So I'll list that below. But if you are going through that, again, email me, ask me any questions, comment below, ask me any questions. Like I said in my last video, I really want this to be a community where we share things. If somebody has more information of all these things that I've listed here, feel free to give me your 2 cents, or send me an email and give me some info. But again, I'm not saying that this is what you have. I am not a doctor. I never went to the doctor. This is just my personal experience of everything that I went through. So again, like I said, I want this to be a community. Comment below, email me, I will respond. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Look for a video from me next week. It's going to be on weight loss. Woohoo! Yay! So look for a video from me next week, and then we'll go from there. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.